Welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. Our theme for 2025 is the future of work. Meaning is the new money. In a world shaped by rapid innovation and constant change, the pursuit of purpose and impact has never been more important. I'm Dr. John Dentico, your host, bringing over 30 years of experience in leadership, strategic thinking, and purpose-driven innovation. Here, we tackle the pressing challenges of our time, from the rise of artificial intelligence to the growing need for meaning in the workplace. Together, we'll uncover how leaders can ethically integrate AI to enhance decision-making and keep humanity at the heart of their organizations. Remember, amidst all the technological advancements, in the end, it's always about the people. This podcast is your resource for actionable tools, thought-provoking discussions, and inspiring stories. It's time to go beyond leadership development and focus on leadership impact, creating workplaces where people thrive, innovation flourishes, and meaning truly becomes the new currency. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now, let's throttle up and dive into today's episode. Hello again, and welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Dr. John Dentico. With me today is Arias Websterberry. Arias is an unstoppable force in the world of entrepreneurship, digital marketing, and tech innovation. From humble beginnings to building multiple thriving businesses, Arias' story is a testament to resilience, bold risk-taking, and the power of seizing opportunities in a rapidly evolving digital landscape. He is the founder and CEO of Websterberry Marketing, Ignite Funnels, and Launch Ignition AI, a cutting-edge AI platform that helps entrepreneurs and businesses automate and accelerate their growth. Arias' entrepreneurial journey is rooted in overcoming profound adversity. Raised by a single mother who worked 2 full-time jobs and a father who struggled with drug addiction, Arias experienced homelessness and instability, living in over 12 different places before turning 18. Both of his parents were incarcerated, and his father tragically passed away when Arias was just 13 years old. Despite these challenges, Arias channeled his pain into purpose, using his difficult upbringing as fuel to drive his entrepreneurial success. His journey from these hardships to leading multiple multi-million-dollar enterprises is a story of grit, determination, and the unwavering belief that adversity can be turned into opportunity. With his no-nonsense approach to digital marketing, Arias has helped generate over $112 million in revenue for businesses he coached and collaborated with. His mission is to help 1,000 entrepreneurs make $100,000 by 2026 using his expertise in digital marketing strategies for growth. And I am truly pleased and honored that he has joined me here today. Welcome, Arias. How are you today?
I'm doing amazing, Dr. John. It is a beautiful day. Any day that you wake up on this side of the dirt, I consider a blessing. So thank you for having me.
Yes, it is. And please just call me John. I always tell people I use the title doctor on 2 occasions. One is when I submit proposals for speaking opportunities, and the other is when I make dinner reservations. Get you to good table every time. Okay, let's move on. Arias, one thing is for sure. You have what athletes call heart. I have to ask you, having overcome some of the most difficult of upbringings, what got you through it? Can you tell me and my listeners and viewers what were some of the fundamental influences in your life?
A couple. One is my mom. I always try to give credit to her. She did some things that weren't optimal, but one thing that she did absolutely an amazing job at was building my self-confidence and my understanding that working harder than everyone else is completely in your control. In testament to her, she worked 2 full-time jobs regularly in order to make sure that we were able to live a middle-class lifestyle. She's a force. She is a no-nonsense type, and she obviously spread that to me. So she's definitely a big influence in my life. And then the other thing is looking at the various things that happened in my childhood and kind of the people around me that were not achieving. I saw that, and then I also saw the contrast of some of the business leaders that I looked up to. A lot of the maverick CEOs of the 90s and early 2000s were an inspiration to me. They really were my North Star. I looked to them, and while a lot of kids wanted to be basketball players or rock stars, I wanted to be a powerhouse CEO, right? That was, if I had pictures on a wall, it would have been these CEOs. So I got it at an early age, and that being my goal and my mission, it wasn't really hard for me to keep going. It wasn't really hard for me to face adversity and push through it because my why was bigger than whatever was placed in my path.
That's a great story. Yeah, I think there are people that come into your life that help you make choices. I had an uncle named Gus, and he was very much like that. Pushed me down the road. It was one of those things. Yeah, he pushed me down the road to becoming a naval officer, and which I did, and I still think it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life. Let's move on to the next question. That was a great answer. Arias, what lessons can you pass on to others about turning adversity into advantage? What are some of the things you have learned on your journey? I don't mean to be too redundant here, but I just thought I would just reach down a little bit deeper in that area.
I would say that it's never as good or as bad as you think it is, no matter the situation. I've been homeless. I've went bankrupt. I've made enormous amounts of money and lost it. I have lost parents, friends, businesses, and no matter what I've lost, I've gained more in my understanding of my resilience and my strength. The more things you go through, the more your bandwidth to handle, your capacity. And that's why older people are who you should listen to, because they've been down that road. They've seen this show before and they know how it ends. In the struggles that I've had, I realized that at the heights, now me looking at where I am now, I thought I was really doing something and I had really achieved something. And now I'm like, the amount of money I was excited about, I make in a month now. And some of the things that crushed me, losing businesses or maybe not getting a deal or having financial hardship, I now realize that it's not that bad. If money is your only problem, where you're blessed, because money is always something that you can get more of, right? There are a lot of people in the world that are struggling with things that they do not have the ability to solve. Yeah, when it comes to adversity, I think it's just perspective, realizing that things are never as bad or as good as you think they are. If you try to stay even keeled and you press on, then no matter the adversity, you will be victorious.
I really loved your comment about increasing one's bandwidth to deal with issues and problems as they arise, because you know that old saying, that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very true. I think if you can come through it, find your way through it, you become stronger. Your bandwidth grows, and you're able to deal with more adversity wherever you encounter it. So that's a wonderful comment. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and if I can add, you don't
Go ahead.
become a strong leader by avoiding struggles. You become one by facing them, adapting, and coming out stronger. And I didn't grow up with privilege, but I grew up with grit. I learned how to navigate through situations early on, and it gave me the mindset I needed to build my business, to build it to be a successful business. And now I help others do the same. And if you can find that grit, if you can figure out how to push forward no matter what's thrown at you, nothing can stop you.
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I can think some of the trials and tribulations I've been through myself over the course of the last 30 years, and I will tell you, there were times when I didn't think I was going to make it through it. But I always say, one of the simple facts I've learned is no matter what happens, just keep moving forward. One day you may just get an inch, but it's an inch. Some days you get a foot and a half as you continue to move forward. And sometimes you just sprint for a while. And that's great. It's great when you're sprinting, but you've got to be able to understand that sometimes you'll only get a half an inch, or as I like to say, sometimes we like to think about the future, where we're going to be in the future, different things like that. And sometimes the best you can do is make it through the next 15 minutes. You know what I mean, right? So you sit back and say, I just need to get through these next 15 minutes. And when I do that, I'll get through the next 15 minutes. And sometimes that's all you can do. There's this notion, I've been talking about this in several podcasts, about fight or flight, that fight or flight. Well, there's a third one. What happens when you can't fight, and what happens when you can't run away? And that is you endure. You dig in, and you hang in there for as long as you can. And people do that all the time. I believe when you may be the single breadwinner in a family, but you're working in a job that you can't stand. So you just have to dig in and pay the bill and just endure. So enduring is a wonderful way, I think, for me anyway, to look at what happens when difficult times come upon you. So let's shift our focus a little bit to business. So Arias, can you list for me 3 mistakes that entrepreneurs make with their digital marketing efforts? What is it that they keep getting wrong?
Only 3.
We only have so much time.
Right. There's a few, man. I believe that one of the ones that I think keeps people failing to start is they wrap their ego. I coach lots of entrepreneurs, and obviously we coach entrepreneurs, and then we also deal with them on the agency side and doing marketing. And many of them have tons of content in their phone. They've got pictures, they have videos, but they don't post them simply because they're worried about what their friends or family or random strangers are going to say about what they post. Do I look fat? Did I not get enough sun this year? Do I sound corny or cheesy? Is it a good hair day? All of these things, these what ifs and all of these kind of neurotic thoughts that kind of they have internally keeps them from pushing the button and actually taking the action. And the reality is you're going to suck at anything that you try for the first time. It's a very rare person that tries something brand new they've never done and just completely knocks it out of the park and has a hit the first time. Content in social media is no different. You have to get in and you have to do it and you have to analyze and you need to iterate. You need to figure out what works for your particular industry and your particular audience. And you can't do that by turning over the idea in your head and planning your way out of it. This is one of those try-fail types of things. So that's the big thing. The second thing is some people post too often. So you have those that don't post often enough, and you have the others that post too often. And when I say too often, every time you sit down for a meal at a restaurant, you're snapping a picture of your Danish or your iced latte at Starbucks with, some bushes in the background. We don't care, right? I know that you love your Frappuccino, but the world does not care. You need to make sure that your content is meaningful. There's nothing wrong with showing your lifestyle and humanizing yourself and your brand. But there needs to be a strategy and a purpose behind the things that you are sharing, right? We don't need to see 2,000 pictures of you and your dog or you and your kids. If you are an entrepreneur, if you are in business, you need to be intentional about what you're putting out. Now, can you show your family? Absolutely, right? Especially holidays, big events, things like that. But in short order, you need to get back to business. So try to have a plan, a purpose for what you're posting. And then the third thing is what I think doesn't get talked about enough. Most people that are posting online, especially for business, they do not have or command any kind of authority. You are publishing things and no one sees you as the expert in your field. And many times it's because of the first 2 things I talked about. You're posting a whole bunch of random stuff that has nothing to do with your business, or you are not conveying the value that you bring to your target audience. The best way that you can command authority and be seen as an expert is to try to find third-party validation. right? So going on podcast, pitching a local newspaper, magazine, or media outlet to cover you, or maybe you can give them a quote or do a guest post on their social media platforms or on their website or something like that. You need someone else to validate you, to vouch for you, so that the rest of the world says, hey, if the New York Post or the Dallas Observer was willing to give you a shot or quote you or do an editorial on you, obviously there has to be something to it. If you can go on a podcast and you can give some thought leadership, even you publishing things on YouTube, some long form content that allows people to get an understanding of your depth of knowledge, then shows and demonstrates your expertise. Doing those things fosters goodwill, right? By its very nature, you are going deep and you're having a conversation and a dialogue with your audience, and that puts you in a space of authority. When you have that, more people are going to pay attention, and your words are going to carry more weight. You're going to be able to influence what they do, lead your industry, and in doing so, you'll most likely make a lot of profit.
Very interesting. Yeah, I was thinking as you were talking about posting, how many times a week, or there are some people who have very good authority, I will tell you, and that I receive emails from, but I'm getting 6 to 8 to 10 emails a day, and you just feel swamped.
Yep.
And you say, look, one is nice, one a day, 4 a week, something like that. I'd say 2 is probably the minimum. 4 or 5 may be the maximum, I think, if you publish every day. And again, just as you said, it's got to be meaningful. You've got to hit something that people go, wow, that's a really good thought. I hadn't thought about that. So it just keeps you in their mind and keeps the process moving along. So that's very good advice. Let's move to the next question. Arias, I too have become a recent convert to the power of AI. And its transforming effect on businesses, healthcare, finance, and the list goes on. I'm sure you know that. In fact, I've recently completed my certification as an AI management professional, a certification concerned with the creation of guardrails and the ethical use of AI.
Okay.
For people who, as I have, are now venturing into the world of AI, what advice can you give my listeners and viewers about beginning the journey in the world of it?
I think that some are welcoming this age. Some are extremely fearful that our AI and robot overlords are finally here to seize the day and storm the hill. I simply see AI as a force multiplier. If you are not currently using AI, you're most likely going to beat out by someone who is. Eventually, I believe that the majority of the functions that are going on will be ran in part or holistically by AI. And from an entrepreneurial perspective, AI isn't about replacing entrepreneurs. It's about giving us the tools to move smarter, faster, and more efficiently. And one of the things we focus on in my agency and what I coach entrepreneurs on is how to use AI in their own business. For us, we have a whole system called Launch Ignition AI, which simplifies and helps to automate business scaling. We also use AI in content marketing and lead generation and some customer retention strategies. For most people, you really have to figure out how you can blend this and weave it into your workflow. How can you get these things to help amplify and multiply what it is that you're already doing, right? How can it make your product or your service better? How can it make it more accurate? How can you use it to analyze things in order to provide a better quality product or service? It's really about not offloading your responsibility to it, but figuring out how to improve what it is that you're doing. So ultimately you can provide value.
I couldn't agree with you more. It has really changed my perspective on a lot of things, just in the short time, the several weeks that I have been using it. I'm actually working now on creating an online course or several online courses So I have the Pro ChatGPT subscription, and I've uploaded my book, PowerPoint slides, other things that I've written, the transcription files from the podcasts, because it can tell when I'm speaking versus, for example, when you're speaking.
Yeah.
And I'm asking it now to help me outline what these courses will look like. And again, once that's done, I have to dive into it and then work with it to help create each one of the modules, for example, in the program. And I've been talking back and forth. I've been in a really great conversation with one of the techs at Udemy, and they've been very, very helpful in terms of helping me figure out how I want to do, how I want to come to it, what approach I want to take, maybe the first 3 or 4 modules, and thinking that they could all be one course, and now there may be several courses involved. So it's very, very interesting to see how it helps me to flesh out, if you will, how I want to come at it, how I want to take this approach. Very, very interesting. And I appreciate your comments on that. So let me just answer your question in a sense. I can say, from my vantage point, that it would not be wrong for me to say that I have been waiting over 30 years for this moment in time. Okay.
Yeah.
I was part of a group in the early 90s that developed a robust sense of foresight about the future. No one could predict the COVID pandemic or the daily revolution in AI occurring, even as we sit here and chat. But as we witnessed the explosion back then of GUI, graphical user interfaces, in the early 90s, and the internet, and the transformational effect of the distribution and availability of information and knowledge on a global scale. So we were sitting there, we're watching it, things were exploding right before our very eyes. And this was just the internet. This is, okay, here comes GUI, here comes browsers. Wow, what a cool concept of that kind of a thing. We knew that big change was coming, especially for the ideas and models of leadership. Here we are at the point of inflection, of transformation and significant change. As you sit back and look at all of this, in your opinion, how do you think the notions or ideas of leadership have to change in order to be in sync with the world we live in today? It's a big question.
That one's a tough one, especially after the recent election. The leadership used to mean integrity. It used to mean honesty. It used to mean dependability. Now, leadership means popularity for the vast majority of the world. Whether you're moral, whether you're just, whether you're a good person, if you have visibility, most people will consider you a leader. And that's a scary place to be, because a lot of people who do not have your best interest at heart, or do not have the depth of experience to understand the ramifications of the example that they're setting and the information that they're giving or advice that they're giving. I believe that leaders need to adapt. Leaders need to revert to times of old. You need to have a strong moral compass. You need to be known for those things. You need to wear it as a badge of honor. And even if that comes with a short-term loss, in my experience, it'll typically set you up for a long-term gain. We live in a very microwave society where, as long as you are making money, as long as you're getting some accolade or attention, people tend to give no credence to your misdeeds. And that's a sad thing. And I believe that as a leader, you should be looking to be the best of those that you lead. There's an old saying that says you can't lead from behind. You have to lead from the front. And if you can't lead yourself morally, then how can you look other people in the face and attempt to direct them in anything, right? I don't think that leaders can just dictate and expect people to follow. They need to demonstrate it through their own actions and increase their visibility and increase their trust and lead through their influence and lead through their actions.
Yeah, I agree. I think across the board, it's really about what you do. And people will either gravitate to what one individual does as opposed to others. I think you hit the nail on the head. Adaptability. Adaptability is key. My perspective has been the hierarchical models, the top-down models of leadership are being shredded. They're being shredded. And what's shredding them? The distribution of knowledge power to the masses. Never mind the internet. That's taken for granted. But now artificial intelligence and leadership now more as an influence relationship. Whereas anybody can have influence in a dynamic, especially today. And if you become fairly familiar, at least at this point, fairly familiar with the ability to create prompts in, let's say, ChatGPT or AI, you have a storehouse of unbelievable information and knowledge that is there for you,
Right.
is there open to you. And I'm sure you call upon that in your own businesses as well. As you say, the ability to create snippets, the ability to cut a presentation down to maybe 30 or 40-second snippets, 20 of those, whatever, and post them.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing thing to me. And I say I've been waiting 30 years because the models of leadership that I created, and my own model of leadership that I started creating 30 years ago, is based on one premise, and that's contribution. It's just contribution. The door's open. We have an issue. We have a problem. Bring your influence. Bring your knowledge. Bring your information. Help us make our way through these issues and problems. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Especially with leadership, trust is the currency of leadership. My mentor told me there's 3 C's of trust. There's clarity, consistency, and credibility. Leaders who communicate a clear vision gain more trust, and that's the clarity. When you show up consistently, it builds confidence in your leadership, right? And when you share expertise and insights, that builds your authority, or we at my agency call social authority. That's the credibility factor. Credibility is the foundation of your leadership. And in this world where it's easy for anybody to gain some clout and momentary attention, it's absolutely imperative for you to have these 3 C's so that you can build the authority to differentiate and hold up a contrast between those that got a prompt on ChatGPT 5 minutes ago, right? And those that have been doing it for 5 to 50 years. You have to differentiate yourself from a lot of the snake oil salesmen. There's going to be a monsoon of them now that they have this tool that allows them to, as they used to say back in the day, shuck and jive, or fake it until they make it. And if you don't realize that this thing is coming and it's coming fast, and you do not get out there and stake your claim as the authority in your industry, I believe that there's going to come a time where you really won't have the ability, without enormous amounts of money, to cut through the noise and get in front of enough people to demonstrate. So it's critical that you utilize this time to really establish yourself and stop playing small, stop second guessing, and get out there and let people know who you are, what you stand for, and what value you can add.
Wow. Great. Yeah. The example I use of the metaphor is a glazed donut. Right? There's a lot of people out there, believe me, in the world of leadership. I've been around for a long time in that world. There's a lot of people out there with a lot of glaze and very little donut. You know what I'm saying here? Okay. You know what I mean? They've got the marketing down. They do great marketing. But what are you bringing to the table? What can, as I like to say, because I'm a very practical-oriented, process-oriented person in terms of my leadership perspective. To me, leadership is about process.
Yeah.
It's about practice. What can you give others? What can you provide to others that they can take, go back to work the next day and implement?
Yeah.
So you know what? I know how to do strategic thinking now. Oh, I know how to make a culture shift. We're going to do this and this. Will help me make a culture shift. But there's a lot of people who talk the game and are great at it and they're making a lot of money. I can tell you they're making a lot of money. But when you look at if there's any donut there, there's nothing or very little, those kinds of things. So I absolutely appreciate that. And I agree. It's about clarity. It's about consistency. And it's about what you bring to the table in terms of making someone's world better. In your case, for example, you have these marketing opportunities with other entrepreneurs. They want to see results.
Yeah.
But give me something, Arias. Teach me something, Arias. Or let me tap into one of your systems, Arias, that allows me now to build authority, to build a platform, and to build notoriety for the things that I can bring to the table and do. I completely appreciate that. Very, very good answer. Be careful for those who have a lot of glaze and no donut. That's the way I would wind that piece up.
I'm going to steal that.
You're welcome to
I'll
it.
give you credit,
You're welcome to it. Yeah, it's all right. Anyway, we're getting close to the end, and I'd like to ask you my final question. I've asked for people all over the world, by the way, and that is, if you had a magic wand and you could change anything in the world in which you live or work, what would that issue or thing be, and why did you choose that?
If I could change anything in the world.
Let's say your work world, or we don't have to think of the entire world at this moment, but
My work world. I would probably say I would make it easier for, I'll pick two. I would make it easier for people to get mentorship, to make that kind of a requirement of people getting into various industries. I believe that, especially in America, we do not place enough value on the wisdom of our elders. I don't believe that is something that is revered, and it should be a normal part of every single industry that gets some tutelage from a mentor that has a proven track record. It would cut down on a lot of the bad actors. It would ensure higher quality. It would also just generally have people have more respect for those that came before them. It would ensure that as a whole, the consumer base got better products and services. And the second thing is I would do a better job of verifying the validity of their claims. If there was a way to do more fact checking and there was a requirement that businesses and just individuals have to go through some process to keep them from swindling people with all of these wild claims of grandiosity, I think that would also make a profound impact on the world. Because again, we haven't seen it. We're seeing a little bit of it, but in the next 3 years or so, it's going to get crazy. And with the ability to completely and utterly fabricate a whole brand, backstory, lifestyle, appearance, I think it's going to be very tough for a lot of people to differentiate fact from fiction. And we definitely need to get a real handle on that, because I think that it's going to have whether it's business or politics or content for children. I think that the UK is doing a great job of trying to get their hands around regulating some of these things. The US is not. We are behind in that. We're doing better at pushing the bounds and innovation with AI and things like that, but we are not doing a great job of regulating. I do not believe that the current administration is going to have any care for any kind of regulation of that, but they should, because a lot of people could be hurt financially, physically, mentally as a result. And we're already starting to see those things pop up dramatically. So yeah, those would be the two things that I would fix. I think more people should study under someone else formally, and I believe that we should try to validate all the things that people are claiming.
Oh, with the arrival, as you well know, of DeepSeek on the scene, it has just changed everything. It's changed the entire dynamic. So now what? Open source AI from, if you will, hamlets, if you could think of it in that way, of different groups developing. So and all that has done now is accelerate the AI development process even further. So now people are putting, you think that there was a lot of people tromping down on the gas pedal on AI now. Forget it. It's really taking off, and keeping guardrails, if you will, or keeping things in check in some way from the ethical use I agree with you, is going to be very difficult to keep up. So people have to self-police. We'll see if that goes anywhere themselves, and say, listen, we have to still consider the ethical use of AI and make sure that we don't hurt a lot of people through this development. So we'll see where that takes us. But it's a very difficult and complex issue that is getting more complex each and every day. Arias, I can't thank you enough for being here today on the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. You've been great. I appreciate it so very, very much. I wish you all the success in the future. Thank you. I appreciate it.
John, thank you for having me. It was an amazing conversation, and I can't wait to maybe do it again.
Okay. Thank you.